Welcome back to DocTrack Administrator Training. With this lesson, we're going to take our first look at DocTrack polling. DocTrack polling is the engine that performs the functions required for converting and bundling documents. It's called upon anytime a user bundles documents with DocTrack Flex or when they issue a Sightline report that's managed by DocTrack. Now, for DocTrack to work properly, this application needs to be running at all times on your web or utility server where the Infor Framework Taskman service is running. That's why we strongly suggest that it be set up as a scheduled task to start in the background every time the server starts. If you want, you can also open DocTrack polling in the foreground, as I'm doing now. Let's take a look at the menu options, starting with Setup. The first option is Set Parameters. This brings up a screen with several tabs of parameter settings for polling. The first field here on the main tab is the frequency. To establish a polling frequency, you enter a quantity in the first field and a unit of time, seconds or minutes, in the frequency measure field. The lower the number, the more frequent the polling. If the number is set too low, it may affect your system's performance. The next field tells DocTrack how many days to retain entries in the DocTrack polling history log and the DocTrack error log. Next, you'll find a reference field that tells you the last time that polling occurred. The Suspend checkbox allows you to stop polling temporarily. Any requests for PDF files will be held in the DocTrack polling queue until this box is unchecked. The last field is the Shutdown checkbox. When this is checked, all processing of DocTrack form output documents will be stopped. Unchecking the Shutdown checkbox will not restart DocTrack polling. Instead, it will need to be restarted according to your system setup, which is likely as a scheduled task. Under the Email Errors tab, if you fill this section out, DocTrack polling will send an email when it runs into an error. Enter the name of your email server, the email port number, and a valid to email address. In many cases, the from email address does not have to be valid, but it does have to be in a valid format. For an example, it's possible that you could use an address like this. In the Timeouts tab, enter the number of seconds to let processes run before they time out and generate an error message. The three processes are converting to PDF, merging PDFs, and printing PDFs. The next tab is labeled Temporary Path. This is here for companies that want to set up two sessions of DocTrack polling to run simultaneously, one for converting and one for processing. For more information on this, you'll want to refer to the installation manual. Finally, when you've completed entering or modifying your polling parameter settings, click Save. All right, moving on now. The Load Exchange Web Services menu option is used when you want to set up the Hold Email in Drafts folder functionality in DocTrack. We'll cover this later in a lesson devoted to that topic. If you ever see a check mark beside this menu option, That's telling you the DocTrack polling is currently not running and needs to be reset. Just click Reset Polling Status to clear this checkmark and reset the polling. The next setup option is Publish File System Web Service. You use this when setting up DocTrack to work in conjunction with the CSI web client. It's also where you'll find the address to be entered in the DocTrack parameters form if your company will be using the web client, which you'll see later. You'll find more information about this menu option in the DocTrack installation manual. Next, we see Start Diagnostics. It's unlikely that you'll use this option unless you have to contact one of our friendly support specialists here at the Lake Companies. If they ask you to click this menu option, activity from the DocTrack polling queue will be logged to a text file, which they can then use to help you troubleshoot the problem. Finally, if you do want to run DocTrack polling in the foreground, you can start it by selecting this option. But remember, we already have it running in the background. In most cases, you can only have one session of polling running at a time. So if I try to start it again in the foreground, I'll get this message. Sometimes when you're troubleshooting, it's better to run polling in the foreground, which will give you some options you wouldn't have otherwise. But to do that, I'll first have to close both open sessions of DocTrack polling. And then reopen it in the foreground. Now I can start polling from the drop-down menu. And I can tell that it's running because it displays this red text indicating that it's ready to convert attachments to PDF format and process polling requests. That's all for right now. On our next lesson, we'll look at the main menu in DocTrack polling. See you then.